Yo, guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the locker room. We are back with our week 3 recap bars, and we're going to be talking about our week 4 predictions here on the show. As always, back on the show again, we have Cody Yurkovich. How you doing today, Cody?
I'm doing great, man. Here for the three-peat.
Yes, sir. And then returning from his locker room mock draft episode, we have my father, Sean Mitchelson. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thank you for having me back.
Yep, no problem. Always fun talking football. And a lot more touchdowns this week, I must say. Offense really picked it up this week for fantasy wise, unless you're the Green Bay Packers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Otherwise, it was a pretty good week for fantasy, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah. A
I'm
little
gonna
salty about that one.
good week for fantasy. I don't think so, but
Hey, I barely won my game, so I'll take that.
All right, well, we can start with that. We can go through our league. We'll go through my league, and we can say what our if we won or lost and why we won or lost. So, Cody, you can start.
Yeah, so a little bit better than what the week prior was, because I think that was my first loss. So going up to 2-1, we beat Mr. Matt 94 to 88. Joe Burrow was low-key debating about benching him and putting Tua in, but he was going against the Jets, so I gave him the benefit of the doubt and put him in. Did super, super solid, really happy about that. And since Mike Evans was suspended, I had to make a gamble and put Robert Woods in, and very scared about that one, but ended up paying off with a measly 12.5 points. Delvin Cook did get injured halfway into the game, but he still had one of his best performances this season, which is kind of sad, which is 13 points. And then San Francisco's defense really clutched it up for me at the end because they got 10 points. And the guy I was going against had Javonte Williams and Jeff Olson Jr., both of which I had a 20-point lead, and I needed both of them to not get 20 points. And obviously, if the Niners defense didn't get the 10 points, I would have lost. So honestly, clutch up at the end of the day was the Niners defense.
Dad, how was your fantasy matchup?
uh, thanks for asking this one. I got smoked by roughly 50 points. Russell Wilson, he's just having a stellar year so far for me. I don't even think he's got double-digit points in any of the games he's played so far. I had all my guys pretty much playing at 1 o'clock, and they really didn't do much. And I played Andrew, and I think he had Mark Andrews and Philly at 1 o'clock, and his two guys were already beating my whole team by the 4 o'clock game. So
It's a tough one. It's a
I
tough
really
one.
didn't have much. Chase, Wilson, Pittman, those guys just aren't
Pittman
living
did
up
all
to it.
right.
Yeah, like 11 points, but Waller dropping touchdowns. It was a rough week. How about you?
I lost 104 to 122, but I guess that's what happens when you play a quarterback that gets 50 points. Jalen Hurts, stellar first half, did nothing in the second half. He got me 33 points though. AJ Brown was solid. Chris Olave really had a coming out party, 21 points. And then Damian Pierce got me 17 points, but I needed at least 20 from Aaron Jones, and he just did not deliver. So Aaron Jones lost me my game there. And yeah, so not a great week, but I went 3-1 in my other league, so I'm not too mad. All right, so moving on, we are going to be talking about the NFL news that has been coming out this week, more injuries, sadly. And we're going to start off with the Mac Jones high ankle sprain out multiple weeks, and Brian Hoyer is going to get their start. So, Cody, what are your thoughts on how this will affect the Patriots in these next few games?
I definitely think it'll affect them good enough. I'm gonna be straight up. Who's the Patriots backup?
Brian Hoyer
I don't even know who that is.
should be
Mac
back.
Jones is an interesting quarterback to talk about because he's not great, but he's also not terrible. And in terms of yardage, Mac Jones had his best yardage game this season, but Mac Jones really needs to escape from the interceptions and the fumbles. So far
I don't
since week
really-
1, he has consistently had 1 interception each game, finishing off this week with 3, which is an absolutely horrible stat to have. So he needs to be more consistent with his throws so that he can still be consistent with the yards and then not sacrifice it with a horrible touchdown to interception ratio. And maybe it might save the Patriots a little bit since they're not going to have to worry about those interceptions, but who knows about the guy coming in to replace him. So I think that the Patriots will be negatively affected in their already lack of an offense that they have. So
I mean, yeah, I mean the Patriots had multiple chances to win that game, but then Mac Jones
easily.
ultimately threw it away. I mean, seen it time and time again from him. Dad, how do you think this will affect the Patriots?
Well, I'm not a Mac Jones fan to begin with, and now we're going to bring in Brian Hoyer, who his last 11 starts in the NFL, he's 0-11. So I don't see this being a positive thing for the Patriots, and I think they're going to go into Lambeau this week. They're going to get it handed to them pretty good.
Yeah, let him throw the ball. That's all you need to do. And now the next injury we're going to talk about is going to be David Montgomery. Not sure how long he's out, but the more important question here is more of a fantasy question. It's not how will David Montgomery affect the Bears. It's how he will affect fantasy because as Cody, I do know that you have Khalil Herbert on your bench.
Indeed.
Who dropped 30 points this week as David Montgomery went down. So if you were a fantasy owner, do you consider Khalil Herbert now a RB1 in fantasy?
I don't want to say that Herbert's like an RB1 just because of, him taking over Montgomery. Yes, he did have his best game of the season so far. And then he obviously saw a ball time increase as well because once again Montgomery was out. This could be my biased opinion because 1, I have Khalil Herbert, and 2, he was on my bench because yeah. But I'm definitely gonna look forward to starting him in the forward weeks, and I think he's going to be a really good bet towards the substitution from Montgomery. I mean, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, 20 rush attempts. I mean, obviously way higher than what his previous rush attempts were in week 2 and week 1. Even getting a little bit of the throw game involved as well, even though Justin Fields isn't that great of a quarterback. In terms of yardage, he's only got like not even 400 yards after 3 weeks, which is kind of horrible. But
like not even that many pass attempts.
no,
They
not at
don't
all.
trust him.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're very consistent with Montgomery, and I think they're going to continue being consistent with Herbert. So, if you have Herbert on your fantasy team, 100% start him. If you have Montgomery, tough luck.
Yeah, tough to fuck. Dad, how do you think this will affect the fantasy game?
Did they say how long Montgomery's out?
I am not sure. I don't think they have released it yet. I can look that up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Herbert's a RB1, but I think obviously with the whole Bears team, they're not very good, as Cody was saying. Justin Fields is struggling at quarterback. Their schedule coming up though is pretty favorable. So I mean, if you're gonna have to start Herbert the next 2-3 weeks, I think they got the Giants, the Vikings, the Commanders. Those are defenses that he could put up some points against. So I don't know if he's the long-term solution, but I think, for the next month or so, he might be a solid start, maybe your second running back. I don't think he's RB1, but I'd have confidence putting him in the lineup.
I just got it. It says it's gonna be day to day, which I'm not sure how that will affect. I mean, I think it will be like I think Khalil will for sure get more of the snaps today, and we'll see how he performs. And this is really his chance to prove himself and possibly take Montgomery's spot. Now, moving on to another person on Cody's fantasy team, Dalvin Cook with a shoulder injury. My biggest thing with Dalvin Cook right now is he hasn't looked great. So I just feel like that they need to give him the time he needs, sit him out till whenever he needs, until he's fully healthy. In my opinion, there's no need to rush this injury. I think you guys can agree. So what are your thoughts on this injury, Dad?
Yeah, I mean, if he can play, I mean, again, he seems to always get injured. He's always getting banged up, his shoulders, whatever it is. They're out in, I think they got the London game this week. So they'll be starting early in the morning for us. We'll get that early morning football along with the afternoon
Great time of year.
football. So, but I mean, I've never been a huge Delvin Cook guy, but he does put up numbers when he's healthy. But that's the question for me: when is he healthy?
Not very often. Cody, how does this affect your fantasy team, and how does this injury make you feel?
I want to say it affects me a lot, seeing as he was my number one pick. But with his underperformance for the past freaking 2 weeks, not including last week, 'cause he actually did like decent before he went out. But the past 2 weeks has just been like atrocious. And James Conner carried me the first week. I had honestly, my running backs did horrible for me last week, so I don't even want to say anything for that. But I mean, Henderson, I started him. He did solid. I had Singletary, but for my number one pick, he's underperforming like all get out. And I thought I would be cool and take a gamble on Cook, which obviously isn't paying off because we are going into week 4 and he's already injured. Not injured in terms of out, but if he plays, obviously we'll be seeing a lower snap count and Alexander Madison will probably be going off. So he will be flexed in as the primary because he's honestly a really good primary whenever Dalvin Cook goes out. I believe it was last year when Cook got injured, or was it the year before that, Landon?
Cook's injured every year. I have no clue.
I just remember I think it was last year when Cook got injured and Madison took the cake for a little while and he was really consistent. So
Yeah.
being a fantasy owner of Dalvin Cook, really disappointed after he did his best performance the entire season so far, which was 13 points, a whopping 96 yards and 1 touchdown, with seeing the second highest snap count of his 3 games. And it's took him 3 weeks to find the end zone, and that's horrible. And so honestly, might have to bench him if he doesn't play. Not looking too solid though.
Yeah, not at all. Moving on to the other injury prone dude, we got Mr. Glass DeAndre Swift, who every time this guy gets hit, his bones crumble because he is always getting hurt. I mean, every year I feel like he gets beaten up and then he has to miss a couple games. I mean, as he is on my dynasty team, it's not a fun sight to see. But how do you and the thing is he can miss until after the bye week. So, Dad, how do you think this not only affects fantasy owners, but it affects the Lions as a team?
Well, I think Jamal Williams is a solid backup that they
Yes,
have
he is.
to keep the offense rolling. As far as Swift, I think he just got everybody excited after that first week with a huge first week, and then he started coming back, got injured last week. I don't think the Lions are gonna. Not that they're great anyway, but I don't think it's going to affect them too much. I think it just affects the fantasy owners that don't have Swift. Hopefully, they handcuffed him with Williams. If they didn't, then they're losing a top running back that is going to be out. And you said after the bye week, that's a good 3 weeks.
Yeah. Cody?
Yeah, so kind of like relating to what Sean was saying, Jamal Williams was a really good sub in for the Lions and was obviously able to almost bring home the win before the Lions so lovingly threw away the game. But I mean, first really he's been being used with Swift as a flex for the past 2 weeks. And this was obviously his breakout game, seeing two rush touchdowns, 87 yards with 20 handoffs as well. Also getting some receiving yards in there, going for two for two, which I think is pretty good. But yeah, I think it's not a bad thing for the Lions whatsoever. But Swift being able to stay healthy is definitely a problem. He is a good running back when he's healthy, but when he's injured, they have Jamal Williams kind of used as a crutch, and he's not a bad crutch to use whatsoever. So fantasy wise, Jamal Williams, really good start this week, and definitely will be seeing similar performance maybe even a little bit more than what we saw in him last week, seeing as he's going against Houston, which is obviously not a great team. So, but Swift owners, like what he was saying, good luck.
Good luck. Good luck. All right, so that's going to wrap up our NFL news portion. Now we are going to move on to our week 3 recap. We have 7 games here to talk about, and we got a winner and loser for every game from each of us. Starting off, toughest game of the week. The Las Vegas Raiders go down to 0-3, 22-24 to the Tennessee Titans. Dad, you can start this one off as the other fellow Raiders fan.
Not a lot of good news coming out of this game, but
No.
I think my loser of this game is going to be Josh McDaniels and his play calling in the red zone. They continue to struggle, and they were in the red zone multiple times and
6 times.
refused to run the ball, continued throwing, and I'm not saying he's the only one to blame, but he's going to get the L for me for the Raiders.
Yeah. And what about your W?
The W, I think I'm going to give it to Tennessee's defense for coming up big in the red zone, multiple stops, 2-point conversion at the end of the game. They came up big and stopped the Raiders. So I think, on multiple occasions, they came up and delivered the victory for Tennessee. So I'm going to give it to their defense.
Cody?
So I'm gonna take a different approach to this and give my win and my loss to 2 Raiders players.
I'm the same thing.
There might be a trend of that going on later down this list, but my W starting off is gonna be Mr. Mac Hollins. Nobody really knew who this guy was until last week because this was his breakout week. Obviously outshining the superstar Devontae Adams and then the clumsy Hunter Renfro. So for him to be able to have a really good game was really solid and almost kept the Raiders afloat until they ever so lovingly failed that 2-point conversion. But 10 targets, 8 receptions, 158 yards, and a touchdown. Not too bad for Mr. Mac Hollins. So hopefully that he'll keep up this consistency so that Derek Carr can have more weapons going into week 4, where the Raiders will hopefully try to see their first win. And then also for my L is going to be Darren Waller. Not really saying that he's bad, but he's just underperforming, like, all get out. Like, I know he's a tight end, but he has seen his targets diminish ever since week 1. And for fantasy owners, that's a really bad thing. And his reception percentage has stayed roughly the same. His yard count has definitely dropped. And for, like I said, fantasy wise, this is not a good thing. So hopefully that we see an upwards trend going into next week so that Derek Carr can start using his big tight end weapons more.
Yeah, easily Darren Waller's worst game of his career. I mean, a lot of drop passes. Can just not happen. My W, like Cody said, I'm going to go with Mac Hollins as well. Mac Hollins is the only reason that the Raiders had a chance because on that last 4th and 10 in the red zone that he caught the touchdown. I'm going to get into my issues with that later. That ultimately was all him, and that was the only reason they had a shot at that 2-point conversion. And then ultimately he just was great. I mean, over 150 yards, and he was awesome. He was getting open, filling in for Hunter Renfro. It was great. My L is going to Josh McDaniels for a lot of reasons. Biggest reason, the play calling. The play calling was atrocious. Josh Jacobs was averaging, I think, like 4.5 yards a carry. We only gave him the ball 12 times. And whenever we got in the red zone, it's just, all right, let's just throw a 4 verticals every play. That happened on the last series. It was 4 verticals. I think we ran it 6 times in a row. We got lucky on the holding call. We ran it 4 more times. And Matt Collins ultimately came up with the big play. It just doesn't make sense to me why we're not running the ball, like my dad said. And it just doesn't make sense why we don't run more crossing routes. I mean, that's how you get guys open, especially when they're playing a man coverage. I just don't understand why we're not doing that. And we had 6 or 7 red zone approaches or whatever, and we only came up with 1 or 2 touchdowns. You get 1 more touchdowns, the Raiders win this game. You even get 1 more field goal out of there, minusing the turnover, the Raiders win this game. So gonna have to give the L to Josh McDaniels. Now moving on to Baltimore versus New England. We touched on this a little bit with Mac Jones. Baltimore came out 37-26. Cody, what are your thoughts and win and L on this game?
Going into this game, I think my win is going to be pretty obvious. I'm going to give it to Mr. Lamar Jackson. Going into week 4 already, and he's already in the talks of being MVP with the numbers that he's putting up between both passing and rushing yards, which is absolutely crazy. In game and fantasy wise, he's putting up astonishing points for a quarterback, and he's being very, very consistent with it. And with the rushing yards that he's putting up, obviously he's not going to have as many passing yards because Lamar, I don't think, is that great of a passing quarterback, and he doesn't really have that many top weapons in terms of receivers. So he's been averaging roughly about 250 yards a game, which is pretty all right. The touchdowns is where he's going. So he's obviously very good, very consistent in the end zone, and he topped out last game with 107 rushing yards. Absolutely crazy. 11 rushing attempts for a quarterback, and he's being consistent with it. It's crazy. So hopefully this isn't just like a little like honeymoon at the beginning of the season. And if he's consistent with it, I can see the Ravens making the playoffs. Lamar making a good running for the MVP as well. And then my L is going to be Mr. Mac Jones, like I was saying before. Top game of like the season in terms of yardage, but the interceptions is where it's killing him. He's thrown 5 interceptions this season so far, and his touchdown interception ratio is, I believe, 3-5 because he had a rushing touchdown, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if you want to count that or not. So aside from the rushing, we could say he's 2-5, which is horrible. And he just needs to perform better. Obviously, he's injured now, so can't really focus on that. But when he comes back, he needs to be more consistent at throwing.
Dad, who's your winning now?
Well, I think Cody hit it right on the head. I mean, I don't know how you can go anybody but Lamar Jackson with the win. Maybe you can go Mark Andrews. He had a great day, a couple touchdowns, 8 catches, 89 yards. But Lamar was all over the field, passing and rushing. So I'll second that, and then I'm going to second the loser as well, Mac Jones. Just way too careless with the ball. He'll make a couple good throws, but he's got to cut down on the interceptions, and now he's got to deal with an injury. So his moving forward, he's going to have to sit on the bench for a little bit. But those are my winners and losers. What do you got?
My winner is not Lamar Jackson. My winner is going to be Devontae Parker, receiver for the Patriots, simply because I've seen this guy. I know he has a lot of talent, but he really hasn't been able to showcase it. As down in Miami, he was not productive. And finally, in New England, he was able to really show it off this week, as I believe he had 8 catches for like 150 yards or something. He looked really good. He was getting open. He was catching the ball. And he was catching the ball from Dirty Mac Jones with some terrible passes. So, going to give my win to Devontae Parker. And then my L is Dirty Mac Jones. Way too careless with the ball. Cannot turn the ball over 3 times. They had a lot of chances to win this game, and he was just not able to get it done. Now, the heartbreaker for Detroit fans. Detroit, the game slips away from them 24-28. What are your thoughts on this game, Cody? I mean, what a heartbreaker.
Definitely a heartbreaker indeed. I mean, starting off the game, the Lions took a 14-0 lead, and you think that the Lions would have the game in the bag before they turn around and give up 14 unanswered points, and all of a sudden the game is tied. Going late into the quarter, I remember it was like, I want to say like 3 minutes, 2 minutes left in the game or something like that. And Scott Hansen was talking about how the Lions would be in pretty good winning percentages for getting that victory formation in play. But, he said that ball is up in the air, and he was most definitely right about that after KJ Osborne was able to walk it into the end zone, pretty much sealing the game for the Vikings in general. And I mean, if the Lions keep playing at the rate that they're playing, I definitely think give it a couple more weeks, they could possibly be in playoff contention.
Oh boy.
That that
Be
is a
drinking.
very long
Don't
shot.
be drinking
Yes,
that Kool-Aid, man.
they're sitting at the bottom of the North right now, but I mean they're losing by under 10 points every single time.
They
So
did
we'll
that
see.
last year and won 3 games.
I know we'll see how they look next week, but like I was saying before, my win's going to be Jamal Williams being able to take over for DeAndre Swift, having the best game of his season so far, and obviously saw an increase in the handoffs and the rush yards. Got 2 touchdowns, which helped out the Lions. And then my L is going to be the star-studded receiver Justin Jefferson. He is getting absolutely shut down after he walked around Green Bay in week 1. So in terms of his targets have diminished pretty much in half, which is horrible. And even his reception percentage is absolutely horrible. He walked away from this game with a 50% reception percentage and only 14 yards.
That makes an
You're telling
interesting
me
point. Is
what?
that Jefferson or is that lockdown Jeff Okuda?
I think it's a little bit of both, but I definitely want to say Jefferson, seeing as he's already been on the decline since week 2.
Because it's really, if you
Did
look at
Okuda
the
play week 1?
Okuda,
Yeah.
yeah, he faced Devontae Smith, who had 0 catches.
Why wasn't he wasn't on AJ at all?
No,
Okay. Well,
which
maybe
was
it was
interesting
the
because
lockdown, but
he went against Devontae Smith, 0 catches. Went against who they play week 2, Terry
he
McLaurin,
did.
like 2 catches when he was on him, and then Jefferson had what, 2 for 14 yards. I mean, is Okuda that guy now? It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out this season. All right, continue.
I definitely think I get what you're saying. He could definitely be that. Maybe if he had a little bit of a better week 2 week, but once again, having a 50% receiving percentage on week 2, going 12 for 6 or 6 for 12 or whatever, and 48 yards. So I mean, he balled out like a madman on week 1, and it's just been pretty much putting him on the back burner since then. So, I mean, if you're going to call yourself what seemed to be in week 1 a top 5 receiver, and then you're putting up these numbers, that's just not good. But I mean, Kirk Cousins isn't also the most consistent quarterback, but he just needs to see a higher target percentage, and hopefully he can capitalize on that.
Dad, what are your thoughts?
For the winner, I'm gonna go a different route. I think KJ Osborne came in and took the stats. He had the game-winning touchdown. I guess he took over for Jefferson since Jefferson was being locked down by your boy Okuda. But I'll give him the W, and then the loss. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch this game too much, but from what I hear, it sounds like Dan Campbell had some rough coaching and time management issues again. So I'm gonna give him the L. Maybe unpopular with the some of the fans, maybe really popular with others, but those are my 2.
My dub is going to be Kirk Cousins. Don't usually do this because last week he looked extremely careless with the football, did not look good at all. But what I liked about Kirk is a lot of things that NFL quarterbacks can't do. When they get a chance to win, they cannot deliver and they cannot win. Kirk was given a very, very slim chance to win with under 40 seconds, and he was able to do that. This is why I'm giving him my win, because he was able to pull away with the win. This is one of those things where he won't, where people say quarterbacks won't win you games, but they won't lose you games. This is certainly a situation where Kirk Cousins won them the game. And then as well, I have my L as Dan Campbell. Just like you, I didn't watch the full ending of the game, but I do have an idea of what happened. It was something how he called the timeout very early, and then they could have just punted, but instead he kicked. They kicked a 54-yard field goal, missed it, which gave the Vikings a chance to score the touchdown. So I love Dan Campbell as a coach, but this is easily one of his worst games. He gets the most out of his players, but he got to work on the time management thing for sure.
That's the same reason they got rid of Jim Caldwell. He was a great coach, but he couldn't do anything in game. His time and clock management was terrible as well.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot Lions have not seen a successful season since Jim Caldwell, which is even crazier.
Right.
Now we're going to go to the Kansas City Indianapolis game. This is a this is a game on last week's episode that me and Cody both said this is a no-brainer. Chiefs are going to win. Chiefs are a powerhouse. Not the case.
Yeah.
Indy comes out with a huge win, 20-17, picking up their first win on the year. I'm going to start off with this one. My win's going to be the Colts D because they were able to hold Patrick Mahomes to 17 points and force an interception. That's really hard to do. This Chiefs offense is one of the best in the league, and they were able to stop that. So the win is definitely going to go to the Colts defense. And my L is actually going to be the Chiefs offense. They were not getting things going at all. I mean, Kelsey had some drops. Hilaire wasn't getting much yards on the run. Mahomes did look a little startled, did look like he had Derek Carr happy feet, but they just did not look like themselves. I don't know if that was the Colts D, but they just did not look like themselves. So my L is going to go to the Chiefs offense. Cody, who you got on this game? Who was your win and loss?
Yeah, so here's another thing where I have a win and loss from the same team. So both are from the Colts. And relating to what you said, Landon, you said their defense was good. I'm gonna go with the Colts offense was good in terms of Matt Ryan's performance, in terms of Matt Ryan's standards. Okay. So going into this week, obviously got shut the heck out in week 2. Barely threw, he didn't even throw for 200 yards and had 3 interceptions, which was atrocious. He had a horrible game performance and then was able to bounce back with a measly about 200 plus yards, 2 touchdowns, obviously being able to help the Colts towards that win. So I like kudos award to Matt Ryan being able to bounce back and capitalize on what the Chiefs couldn't. Not saying the Colts are a good and consistent team, nor do they have the best offense in the league, but for him to be able to come back and capitalize against arguably was one of the best teams in the NFL. I mean, they're still going to be top 10 even after that loss, but I think he did a good job at bouncing back after that loss. And then my L is going to be Jonathan Taylor. I think it gave him the loss again last week, and he's just been underperforming. I mean, he had obviously a better game from last week, which is good, but still has not seen the end zone since week 1, which is horrible for fantasy owners. Compared to his 31 rush attempts on week 1, he was able to bounce back to 21 after dropping to 9 in the second week, but was only able to get 20 more yards after over doubling his rush attempts, which is absolutely horrible. He averaged just over 3 yards per carry, which kind of shows how the Chiefs defense was able to shut him out and was able to go 5-3 on receiving as well. So that kind of ties in with Matt Ryan. So Jonathan Taylor really needs to pick it up, but it's also the defense that he's going against that can kind of hinder him as well.
Yeah, Dad, what do you got on this one?
I'm going to give Matt Ryan the W. He got him down the field on that last drive to win the game. So I give him a lot of credit for doing that. The loss is going to go to Mr. Chris Jones on the defense. I don't know if you guys saw, but they stopped him on that. The Chiefs stopped the Colts on the last drive, but then you got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty by taunting Matt Ryan.
Ooh.
So they got the first down, and then Matt Ryan let him down the field. So I'm going to give him the L because that really would have been the ball game.
Yeah, very, very necessary. I did not see that. Pretty much lost from the game.
Yeah.
No biggie. I got to thank him. I hate the Chiefs, so good there. Moving on to probably, I say this is the most overhyped game as far as the winner is like, now this winner of this game is now being held up to God. We have Miami defeating Buffalo 21-19. Cody, I know that you're a Tua Tagovailoa believer and you have him on your fantasy team. So, are you a Miami believer, or do you believe that they are a good team but not a great team?
I mean, I'd love to be a Miami believer. I mean, I'll definitely stick with him, seeing as Tua's on my fantasy team, so I kind of got to. And I mean, it's home of the pretty much like the best wide receiver duo in the NFL. Both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are two of the top five receiving leaders in the NFL right now, which kind of says something. So that's pretty damn good, especially with Tua being able to give them the ball, definitely being able to be more consistent with his passes compared to last year. And he did have 2 interceptions last game, but then he was also throwing for almost 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. So of course, some interceptions are going to be sprinkled in there. And he was looking to have a pretty solid game performance before
Boy got rocked.
he got a little tipsy during the game and he had to get taken out. So that kind of goes with the W. So the concussion doctor
Yeah.
W on that one, because I think if it was without him being able to clear Tua, the Dolphins would have lost the game. So Tua was able to bounce back and come
I
back
don't know
into the
how he
game.
got back in that game.
Yeah, that's why the NFLPA is kind of like, wait, hold
He
on.
literally fell and could not walk.
Yeah. And it was completely wobbly. I mean, that
He
was
was like
obvious. It
a
wasn't a back
penguin.
issue.
He
I
could
mean,
not walk.
you
How did
watched
he
him,
get back in the game?
no idea, but you literally watch him get rocked. He's on the floor. He like shakes his head off. He's like, all right, I got this. He gets
And
up,
then falls.
takes about 3 steps, and then just collapses.
Then he tries to get
That's
back.
not
No,
good.
I'm good. I'm good. And then his teammates are literally supporting him.
Yeah,
Like
that's not good.
if he
So I
like
mean,
if
here you
he
go.
can get back in the game, how is John Gruden not allowed to coach in the NFL? Like, how does that make sense? I continue. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean the Dolphins, they are going to be playing against Cincinnati. So with the way Cincinnati's been looking this year, I think that they'll be able to walk off with a win. They are playing at Cincinnati, and Joe Burrow did have a better week.
And they're
So
wearing the all white unis.
Yeah, and it's a short week. They got to come back and play tomorrow night after a long game against Buffalo in the hot heat in Miami.
easily. And if Tua can be healthy, I definitely think that the Dolphins can win. If he's not healthy, then the Bengals will probably walk off with the win. But easily, definitely very good right now. They just took out the top team in the NFL right now. It was a scratch and claw way to get to the top, but the Dolphins did end up taking the cake. Bills fans can be salty about it all they want, but Dolphins just outplayed them.
I mean, Buffalo, I feel like they could have won that game if the guy would just got out of bounds.
100%.
Or if he just they could have not necessarily got out of bounds, but he needs to be aware of the time. And right when he catches that ball, he either needs to have a clear path to the sideline or he needs to just drop.
From what I heard, is Josh Allen was trying to like spike the ball or like throw an incomplete pass so that he can stop the clock, and almost got picked off, which then went to Stephon Diggs, who was not able to get out of bounds, which then turned it into a 9-second scramble to get the ball placed, and the ref was taking his time. Which, I mean, you could blame it on the refs, but I think the Bills' offense didn't handle the situation good at all either.
Yeah, both way. I don't blame it on the ref. Bills need to be more self-aware of what's on the clock. Dad, who is your win in L for this week?
I got to second that win with the Tua doctor. I mean, he gave them the win. That's for sure.
Yeah.
They're bringing in. I don't think Teddy Two Gloves Bridgewater is going to win the game for him, but I'll go with Tua's doctor as the win, and then as the loser, the L is going to go to the offensive coordinator for the Bills, Ken Dorsey. Not sure if you saw his little baby fit he threw after they didn't spike the ball in time and they lost. He went nuts in the booth. But also, how do you have Josh Allen throw 63 times? I mean,
it's gonna lead to my loss.
Don't you think you need a little bit more of a run game? I mean, 63 times. That's
Giddy's good, but
I get he's good.
That's
but
excessive.
You got to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
Josh Allen led the team in rushing yards too.
yeah, he did everything for him. So that's my loser, the offensive coordinator.
My winner was gonna be Mike McDaniel, but let's make it 3 concussion doctors. We're gonna go with the concussion doctor.
He's going for MVP of the league.
If Tua doesn't get back in that game, Dolphins lose. Simple as that. And then my L, kind of like you said, with you can't have Josh Allen throw 63 times. It's going to be the Bills running game. I mean, Josh Allen led 4 rushes, I believe, for 49 yards or something and led the team in rushing. That is horrible. Then you had Devin Singletary, who had 9 carries for 13 yards. That's horrible. And then Zach Moss had I think he had 4 carries for like 44 yards or something, but that's because he had a 43-yard running. So you have one big run the entire day. That cannot happen. A lot the McDaniel a lot like Josh McDaniels. You need to learn to run the ball, and the Bills and Raiders both have not been able to do that. So that's why my Bills run game is going to be my L. Moving on to this is the team that I have the most faith in this year, and I am holding in high regards, who I think is very underrated. And they showed that off today. That's going to be, or last week, that is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars winning 38-10, destroying the Los Angeles Chargers. Cody, I know you're a big Herbert fan, and the Chargers are your second favorite team. So how did this loss impact you?
Dude, I'm a huge Herbert fan. I'm heartbroken after that game. I mean, all in reality, they just got shut down. I mean, there really isn't anything you can do about it. I don't know if it's the Jaguars defense being good, but the Chargers offense did horrendous and they were not able to capitalize on anything. So obviously my loss is going to be the opposite. The Chargers defense letting the Jaguars score 38 points on them. And once again, they are the Jaguars, but this season they're looking a little bit better, especially with Doug Peterson as their new head coach. But Chargers defense got to play better. Now, we can give them the benefit of the doubt, seeing as they did just lose Joey Bosa to what is said to be a season-ending injury, which is a huge blow to their defense, which is not good.
Not at all.
And then we got the Trevor Lawrence taking the W. I think I was making fun of him on week 1 and definitely kind of starting to regret that now. 262 pass yards, 3 pass touchdowns. I mean, he balled out and he's starting to get a pretty solid offense around him. I mean, he's got good flex running backs. James Robinson looking very promising, as well as Etienne being flexed in.
Very good on the backfield too.
So in terms of pass and run game, the Jaguars offense looks pretty solid. So let's see if they can keep up the pace. I mean, they're going to Philadelphia, so this is going to be I think it's going to be a very good game because Philadelphia is on a hot streak right now.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is looking great. Back to what you said about their split backfield between James Robinson and Travis Etienne. I also have Trevor Lawrence in my W. But what I like about Trevor Lawrence in this offense is I feel like they have a great blend between run game, pass game, screenplay, everything. They have a perfect blend between all of it, which is why they were so successful this game. And I just thought it looked so good. Trevor Lawrence was calm in the pocket. He was taking hits and making throws. He was extending the play. Trevor Lawrence was looking great this game. Then my L is, I mean, you can't really blame him. The dude's got like broken ribs or something. Justin Herbert, I mean, can't only put up 10 points. I mean, I know you're hurt, but if you want to win football games, you can't only put up 10 points. And he did have a turnover, I believe. So Herbert is going to be my L. Back to my dad. Who do you have as your win and loss today, or for the Jags?
We got to go Trevor Lawrence for the victory on that one. I'll give him the W. He played great, and like you said, he's got a mix of the running backs, the receivers. That offense looks pretty complete. I'm definitely going to give you credit for last week. You're telling me that the Jags were going to pull the upset, and they went in there and it wasn't even close. I mean, they just kicked their rear end all over the field. So
absolutely.
Loser, I'm going to go with the Chargers run game. 12 carries, 26 yards. Whew. Not going to get it done. You can have Justin Herbert, you can have Joe Montana, you can have whoever you want back there. When you're running 12 carries, 26 yards, you're not going to win the game. So they're going to get the L for me.
Not a lot of great running performances, even throughout the year. There has been so far a lot of running back one fantasy bust this year. And the run game has just not been as strong. I don't know if it's that because the league is going into a pass heavy league, but the run game has looked very, very rough. And even as you were saying, the run game today, the run game throughout the whole year for the Chargers has not looked great.
Yeah, Eckler's been. You have Eckler, right?
Who has it?
I
Somebody
have
have Eckler?
I have him in one of my leagues. Yeah,
Yeah, he's had a rough year so far too.
yeah, rough here. And now moving on, Cody, your favorite team, Green Bay Packers versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm actually going to start this one off, and Cody, you can go next. My win is going to be Romeo Dobbs. I mean, I think he had like 8 catches or something. That could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he had like 8 catches for 80 yards and a
Yeah,
touchdown.
he was 8 for 8. Yeah.
Yeah, looked very good. I mean, he was one of those guys where he's a rookie and one of those guys where people are like, watch out for Romeo Dobbs. We haven't seen it. This is where he comes out. This is where he really starts to show that he can be a true number one receiver. I don't know about number one, but he can be a true receiver on this team with the absence of Devontae Adams while also competing with Allen Lazard. And then my L, I don't know if you guys saw this, but it's going to be the Tampa Bay Jumbotron.
Oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers making the push.
It's going to be the Tampa Bay Jumbotron as the Tampa Bay Jumbotron showed something that told Rodgers what the next play was. Rodgers relayed that information to their coaching staff. Coaching staff led to the defense leading to the stop, which ultimately won them a game. Really embarrassing as you are at home and your own Jumbotron loses you the game. Enough said. Cody, what are your thoughts?
I guess that's not home field advantage.
Not at all.
Do you know if the Jumbotron mistake was before or after the delay of game?
I think it was after.
Because obviously, I think they were going for pass plays both times, and they almost got a delay of game on that touchdown. It's honestly kind of like going
It
back.
probably
and
was
forth
a delay
with
of
people on
game.
that one. I mean, they got it like
Yeah.
right out in the nick of time, but obviously got a delay of game on that, and I'm gonna guess that the Jumbotron shot something out after that delay of game penalty. So,
Could have been like a tablet, a coach saying something,
yeah,
anything like that.
Going into this game, I had pretty high hopes for Green Bay, especially after David Bakhtiari was finally able to make his return game, which was really nice to see that. 14-12, not a high scoring game whatsoever, but at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers was able to take the dub over Tom Brady, who basically has owned the Packers for the past 3 years, I want to say. Even more, but the whole Tom Brady and Tampa Bay, he's been owning Aaron Rodgers for the past 3 years. They got decimated at home. They got him blown out in the championship, and it's just heartbreaking, but it's nice to see Aaron Rodgers walk away with the dub at Raymond James Stadium as well.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go with Landon on this one. Romeo Dobbs. Really, really solid. This guy kind of came out of nowhere. He was, making some pretty decent yardage on week 1 and 2. Breakout game was definitely this game. With Sammy Watkins out, he was able to capitalize on that. Randall Cobb and Allen Lazard are still able to be pretty consistent, even though Allen Lazard, he did get a touchdown, but he's still not playing at 100% because I don't know if you guys saw, but after his touchdown, he celebrated and then ran to the sidelines and like threw his guts up. Now, I don't know if that's because they were playing in almost 100-degree weather or he just was not there that game.
I have a feeling it was with the weather.
But yeah, Romeo, good little 8 for 8, 73 yards and a touchdown, doing really great on that. So hopefully he'll keep up that consistency. Like you were saying, Landon, after losing Devontae Adams, that was a huge heartbreaker. So I feel like the Packers are kind of scrounging around for any receiver core that they can get. obviously signing Sammy Watkins in the offseason, who had a consistent game last game. Alan Lazard is the new wide receiver one. Randall Cobb making his second year return, and then basically just trying to make stars out of young receivers. And Aaron Rodgers is going to try and force them to be stars pretty much. But my L is going to be Leonard Fournette. Once again, not a running game really strong season right now. I mean, a lot of people's number one picks right here, and he has just been diminishing ever since the first week. His touches has diminished almost in half since the first week, and he only got 35 yards. Still has not even seen the end zone. So in terms of a fantasy perspective, that's horrible production coming from this running back right here. He's an RB1 and hasn't seen the end zone, and he's averaging like 10 points a game, which is not Leonard Fournette numbers. So that's going to be my L.
Dad, what about you?
I'm gonna give it the dub to Aaron Rodgers for getting over that Tampa Bay Tom Brady hump, not being able to beat them and finally coming through and going in their house and taking care of business. I think he had over 100 QB rating. He didn't put up a ton of yards, but he played well. And with the receiving core that we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes, it's been a struggle for him. So
Absolutely.
I'm going to give him the dub. And then the L is going to go to the Tampa Bay offensive line, what was going on in that last 15, 20 seconds. Getting the delay of game, you can't have that on the 2-point conversion. So I'm just going to go that route with the L.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that I get Green Bay has good defense, but Tampa Bay's offense has not been clicking even for the entire season. It might be something with Brady and whatever's going on outside of football, but Brady is not looking like himself, and this Tampa Bay offense certainly is not either. So that is going to wrap up our week 3 recap and our wins and L's for this week. Now we are going to move on to our week 4 predictions, also known as our 2-minute drill. I'm going to ask my dad and Cody, who do you think is going to win this game? We're going to get 5-second explanation on who they think is going to win. That's why they call it the 2-minute drill. Going to be rapid fire. But first, I'm going to go over me and Cody's record last week. As Cody, me and you both struggled with the 2-minute drill. Cody went 6 for 10 on his picks, and I also went 6 for 10 on my picks. So we are going right now. We are.
I'll take that. Losing, but not terrible. To be fair, there was a lot of shockers in this week right here that we did not see coming.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're just going to get started right away. So I'll ask my dad first. I'll go to Cody. So we're going to put that timer on the clock, and here we go. Miami versus Cincy. Who do you got?
I got the Bengals. Short week for Miami after playing a tough Buffalo team. Give me the Bengals.
Who do you got, Cody?
Give me the Bengals as well. With Tua being banged up, I think they'll be able to capitalize on that.
Minnesota versus New Orleans.
It's overseas. Give me the Vikings in a close game.
Cody, who you got?
I'll take the Vikings over the Saints just because of the sole reason the Saints offense is atrocious.
Cleveland versus Atlanta.
Give me the Falcons at home.
Interesting. Cody, who do you got?
I think with the way Nick Chubb's performing this season and the Falcons defense, I want to go with the Browns on this one, even though it'll probably be a close game.
I forgot to say my pick, so we're going to go with that real quick. I have Cincy. I just like them better. I think that's coming out the game. Minnesota, I just think that they will be able to outbattle Jameis Winston. Cleveland at home or versus Atlanta. I am going to take Cleveland. I think Jacoby Brissett is going to be more productive than Marcus Mariota. And now we're on Bills versus Ravens. Who do you got?
I'm going to go the Bills on the road in a close game.
Cody?
Man, that's going to be a good game. Holy crap. Let's go Ravens with Lamar Jackson's production so far. I think he's going to do really great. And the Bills defense obviously gave it up against Tua last week. So
I also got the Bills. Washington versus Dallas.
I think Dallas is going to take care of business. Commanders are horrible.
Cody?
I'm gonna go for the underdogs on this one and go Commanders, even though Carson Wentz had a horrible game last week. But I just don't like the Cowboys. But Cooper Rush is really good. Even though Dak Prescott is expected to return on week 4, we'll see how that goes.
I got the Commanders as well. Seattle versus Detroit.
Oh, God, do I? I'm really going to take the Lions on this one. I can't believe it.
All right, I'm taking the Lions too. Seahawks have not been looking that solid this season, so I want the Lions to walk away with a win.
I'm going to go to Detroit as well, but we all took Detroit, so you know what that means. Now they're going to lose. Chargers versus Houston.
Give me the Chargers. They're banged up as can be, but they need a victory. They're 1-2, so they got to win.
Okay, I love Justin Herbert and I love the Chargers, but with Justin Herbert still being banged up and the team in general,
Yes.
especially after losing Joey, I'm gonna go underdogs. Upset
Do
of
it,
the week.
Cody.
Texans are gonna win.
I have Houston as well. Chargers are staying banged up and they're dropping to 1-3. Tennessee versus Indy.
That's in Indy. I'm going to take the Colts. I think they're going to get back, with Case, the big momentum win over the Chiefs. They'll win again.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Colts as well. I mean, both offenses are really good, but after last week, the Colts offense can be more productive than what the lackluster Titans offense is right now.
Surprisingly, I trust Tannehill more than I do Matt Ryan right now, so I'm going to go with Tennessee. Chicago versus the Giants.
Ooh, this is an ugly game. Give me the G-men at home. Justin Fields is garbage.
Yeah, if they let Khalil Herbert run all over them, then probably the Bears, but I'm just gonna go with the Giants as well because the Bears are not looking solid right now and the Giants are. So
Never thought I'd say this, but I trust Daniel Jones more than Justin Fields right now, and I trust Saquon Barkley more than Khalil Herbert. So we're going to go with the Giants. Jacksonville versus Philadelphia. This is going to be my pick for game of the week.
Really good game, and that's Doug Peterson coming back to Philly.
Ooh, Philly, where he won his Super Bowl.
But I'm taking Hurts over Mr. Trevor Lawrence.
I
Give me the
wanna
Eagles.
let me go upset number 2. I would love to ride with the Eagles, but I feel like you guys are both gonna pick the Eagles, so I'm gonna go out of the box and pick the Jaguars after their performance last week, even though this is still gonna be a superstar game.
I'm also going with the Eagles. I would go Jags if the Jags were at home, but that Philadelphia crowd can be violent, so give me Philly. Giants versus Pittsburgh.
Jets versus Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah, excuse me. Jets versus Pittsburgh.
Zach
Wilson's
Wilson's
return.
back. Yeah, I'm going the upset. I'm going with the Jets.
Woo.
Yeah, this game looks ugly. I'll take the Jets as well. They seem more consistent than the Steelers, even though Steelers have a good defense, so we'll see.
Exactly my reason. I trust Pittsburgh's defense more. Give me Pittsburgh. Arizona versus Carolina.
Another ugly game. I like Kyler Murray over that bum that came from Cleveland. Give me Arizona.
If they were playing in Arizona, I would take the Cardinals, but if they're playing in Carolina, I'll take the Panthers on this one. And just because the Cardinals offense is really diminished this year, even though the Panthers are not looking hot either, but I'll take the Panthers.
And this game comes down to me, the quarterback. I trust Kyler more. Give me Arizona. Green Bay versus New England. Whew.
Not even close. Packers are going to roll over Mr. Brian Hoyer.
Packers all the way just because Mac Jones is injured.
Packers, no explanation needed. Denver versus Las Vegas.
The Raiders are getting their first victory of the year. Russell is terrible, and he's going to continue to be terrible because he's on my fantasy team.
Yeah, nice little division game going on here. So hopefully the Raiders can escape with a nice little 1-3. I'm gonna take the Raiders for the sole reason of the Broncos offense looking like a dumpster fire.
I'm taking the Raiders as well because the Raiders have been able to score points, unlike Denver. Tampa versus KC, Sunday Night Football.
This game I heard might be moved to Minnesota if the weather's really bad with the hurricane. But I think Tampa Bay's getting their receivers back, so I'm going to say Tampa Bay in a close one.
Yeah, Mike Evans is making his glorious return in this week, so I'm if Tom Brady and Mike Evans can get that chemistry back, I think that they'll definitely do good against the Chiefs defense. It's all
I
Buccaneers.
also have Tampa winning this one. I do think that Tom Brady has an edge over Patrick Mahomes simply because I just don't see Patrick Mahomes being Brady yet. I just have a gut feeling, and I'm going to go with it. Give me Tampa. And Monday Night Football, we get over that horrific Dallas versus Giants game. We got a good game. We have division rivals in the West, the Rams versus the Niners.
I'm going Jimmy Grapes and the Niners at home.
Ooh.
Jimmy G's been looking kind of iffy, but so has the Rams. So both teams have really good defenses, and I feel like it's going to be a low-scoring game, and it's going to come down to the wire. But let me roll with the Niners for the sole reason that they're playing at home.
Thinking about this game harder, I'm still going to go with the Rams. I just think that the Rams can have a better chance of scoring on the Niners offense than the Niners have of scoring on the Rams defense. I didn't word that right, but whatever. I think that the Rams have a better chance to score. And that will wrap up the 2-minute drill and our week 4 predictions. So that is going to lead us to the end of the episode. I want to thank you, Cody, coming back on, and my dad for coming on. It has been a great time, and I want to thank both of you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for having me again. It was always fun.
Yep, no problem. Next week, me and Cody should be back with it. And that is going to be the episode for the day. So we will see you guys next time. Peace out.